sure if that was a child or a, what the fuck? What the fuck? Golly. The drivers around here are fucking insane. Here's that QT. Oh, fucking Bronco. Wow. Chick is built weird. Got a big old belly. I need to find a nice little fueling spot right here. Let's go over here. Right here is perfect. Perfectamundo. I'm getting the full experience today. I guess I could have left my gloves on. I'm gonna shield my pin from this one, I'm sorry. Sheet, new. Remove nozzle. Select the grade. Z takes Primo because she has such a high compression little motor in her. People will go, oh, Premium feels a scam. Alright, try riding around on a super high compression motor or driving around with a turbocharged vehicle. And when you start hearing that fucking detonation, you tell me that it's a fucking scam. I don't really understand. What's this RM over 2 method mean? RON plus MON over 2. Random octane number. I think versus motorized octane number. Random octane number is, I think what the factory assigns to the fuel, or says that the fuel is. I could be wrong. And then the motorized or whatever octane number is what this guy like comes out here with a little briefcase and puts the actual, oh, bonked my camera real good, puts the actual fuel in this this motor, this like heavily regulated little motor that's in like a briefcase, and actually measures based on how the engine performs, actually measures the octane number up against what it says. And what I mean by what it says is they measure it up against that RON number, which is why they do the average of both of them. Of course, we all know what averages are, and that's a number plus a number divided by 2. Hence the RON plus MON over 2. So it's like a average of what the actual manufacturer says and what a basically like an independent investigator says. Somebody outside the company is saying, yeah, that's definitely 91 or 89 or 87. The higher the octane number, the more pressure the fuel can withstand before combusting, which is why you want high octane inside of either turbocharged or inside of high compression engines, because the tighter you can squeeze that little fuel air package without it combusting, technically the more power you can get out of that, because you're really squeezing it into a really tight spot and then popping it with the spark plug, which is pretty cool. And then you get, typically I think if you have the really low octane, for whatever reason, you can actually get what they call pre-ignition, which is where the fuel can combust at such a low pressure, and if it's really hot in the motor, it helps out too, helps combust that fuel. It combusts at such a low pressure. Oh, that's a big bird. I think that's a red hawk. But when that happens, you get hellacious problems. And then detonation is typically a factor of that, and you having little hot spots inside of your engine and having really goofy timing and stuff. Running the engine lean. Then you get so you get 4 strokes and you get 2 strokes. Vast majority of engines nowadays, and by vast I mean like every single engine on the street, unless you have a really old motorcycle, or in some cases a really old goofy car, or a fucking tank, the vast majority of them are 4 strokes. And a 4-stroke is literally just 4 strokes of the piston, either going up, So it goes up, down, and that's a full combustion cycle. This guy's riding like he ain't ever rode a motorcycle before. I don't know what's up with that guy. Up, down, and you get a full cycle of the engine. So that's a 4-stroke, and then a 2-stroke is literally just up, down, and that's it. And that's a full compression, combustion, intake, or you get intake, compression, combustion, exhaust, all in 2 strokes. Whereas in a 4-stroke, you would do intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. Intake, compression, combustion, exhaust. Whereas in a 2-stroke, it's like intake, combustion, compression, exhaust. I think I might have that wrong. My brain is barely working nowadays. 2-strokes are awesome, but you have a lot of issues with 2-strokes. 2-strokes are awesome because you have almost no moving parts inside that little bastard. You have the piston, you have the connecting rod, obviously the rod pin, or the piston connecting rod pin, and then you have the crank, a couple bearings. That's it for the engine. I mean, if you want to factor in the transmission, there's a bunch of moving parts, but yeah, that's literally it for the engine. Which is pretty wild. The fuck? That was weird. That person was like yelling inside of their car. A lot of freaks out here. A lot of freaks around here. And then 4-strokes, they have a lot of moving parts. I'll say that much. They have like, I think like 4 times as many moving parts or something. Like a shitload more moving parts. So you have like the piston, the connecting rod, the wrist pin. That's what it's called. The wrist pin, the crank, and then you have all the valve train, whether that's a side valve, overhead valve, and then you have the cams, the chains that connect all of it, or gears that connect all of it. There is a lot. Woo! There is a shitload of stuff inside those motors. And then you get a single overhead cam, which is a sock. They call it a sock motor. And then you get a dual overhead cam, which is called a dock motor, or they call it double overhead cam. Typically it's called dual. Fun fact, I always talk about this, but Kawasaki, this bike exactly, 1973 was the first ever. Is that a starling up there? Wow, bird. I was gonna say, I thought that said 70 seconds for the people to cross. That would have been wild, but it was 20 without the bottom. So Kawasaki was the first motorcycle ever in 1973 motorcycle manufacturer to introduce the dual overhead cam in an inline 4 engine, and that thing clapped everything. And actually today when I went to go buy the microphone so I could record all this shit, there was a guy in the parking lot that pulled up and was like, "Is that a real Z900?" And I was like, not really. I mean, it is, but it's a new version of it. He's like, "Man, the old ones, when I was a kid, those things were the fastest bikes in the world back then." He's a really old guy. He was like, he's like, "I used to build like souped up Hondas, and those were the bikes to beat." Never heard of a Honda beating a Z900 or a Z1900, but whatever. Unless you did a lot of work to it compared to a factory Kawasaki. That's a cute dog. Looks like a border collie or something. I don't know what the fuck. So yeah, Kawasaki's pretty cool. I like Kawasaki a lot. Not a huge fan of Honda, I'll be honest. I like Hondas less than I like Harleys. There's just something about those bikes. I don't like them. And so many people are just like Honda meat riders. They really go crazy on Honda shaboing boing. I'm not really too sure why. Like, they're not bad bikes, definitely not bad bikes, but it's nothing to write home about. "Oh, well, my motorcycle's extremely reliable." Alright. And I have a 1982 Kawasaki KZ750 N1 Spectre. I've had almost no issues with that thing. One of the biggest issues I've ever had with that thing was the clutch cable breaking and the headlight low beam going out. And that motorcycle is so intelligent that it has its own little computer. This is from 1982, mind you. That motorcycle has its own little computer where if the high beam or the low beam goes out, it will detect that the low beam went out. And it will default to, I don't know what the fuck that guy was doing, but it will default to switching to the high beam and dimming it to half the power. So I thought my bike was fucked up when that happened, but actually it was smarter than me. And I had to read the damn service manual, not the owner's manual. I had to read the fucking service manual to figure that out, which is insane. The service manual for that bike is really bizarre. It's almost like an information manual, not really a service manual. It just kind of teaches you a lot of weird shit about the bike. It does teach you a lot of really important stuff, like all the torque specs and things, but yeah, that was a weird bike. So when people say, oh, well, Honda's really reliable, it's like, yeah, all the big four motorcycles are pretty reliable. There's a handful of bikes from all of the manufacturers that are fucking terrible. Like you get the Yamaha Virago. I don't think it's just an unreliable bike, it's just extremely difficult to look at. You get the, I don't even know. I don't like the way that GLs look from Honda. Any of the GLs, even the original. I don't like the way Hondas look, so I'm not even going to talk about them. Harley, we're not even going to get into Harley. There was a time period actually where Harley manufactured motorcycles with helical cut gears in their transmissions. I think it was the first time. Harley has it now, helical cut gears, I believe, in their transmissions for the most part. But this was the first time that they had ever had helical cut gears. The gears would actually shear off on those models, and it would shift into two gears at once, and that would cause you to, for the rear wheel to stop, because you can't be in two gears at once. And typically it would be when people were going like 60 to 80 miles an hour down the freeway, and your rear wheel would just fucking lock up. And there's a GL right there, actually. I was just talking shit about him. Fucking GL. Didn't even wave at me. See, average Honda rider. Fucking bastard. That's what I'm talking about. Not really good for Harleys to shift into two gears at once and go skidding down the freeway and die. I can't find this bike, but there's a really bizarre Harley that I like a lot, where the entire chain was bathed in oil, like it was enclosed in a housing and bathed in oil like a moped. Really cool. Of course, knowing Harley innovates a lot with their bikes. If you know a lot about Harleys, that sounds retarded, but it's not. They innovate a lot, but the problem is they go a little crazy sometimes and innovate a little too much. That was like practically unheard of at the time, and people detested it. Like they fucking hated that shit. So of course Harley, everybody was taking it off those bikes, and of course Harley instantly trashed that idea. Instead of building upon it and like forcing their consumers, like, no, this is for your own good, they just threw it away. And now I can't even find information on that bike. I don't even know what it's called. I wish I remembered. It's such a bizarre motorcycle.